the version I don't remember. Maybe I guess what it is 1.3. That's a version which I've started with in Kubernetes. Nowadays 1.30. Rapid changes. Okay. So before that, in 2013, I started working on web hosting industry, like for Plus Panel and cPanel. So that are the clients which I've worked with. That is purely hosting side, and it is a kind of technical support, Linux and Windows operating system. After that, I have changed into another domain where I have worked in the same hosting industry. After that, I switched my career to DevOps in 2016, somewhere around. Okay. Now, since I have pretty good experience on this containerization technology, I can tell you in and out what is happening around this technology right now. Now, everybody might have a concern that if I learn this one, how long I can survive? See, we don't know the future. For example, earlier what we used to have physical servers or a bare metal server. After that, what is the technology they have developed to run your applications? Earlier we used to run, maybe 15 years back, we used to run our applications only on bare metal or a physical machine. Now we are running on what kind of environment? Does anyone know? Shankar and Sumit.
On
AWS, right?
cloud, actually. Cloud.
No. Cloud is fine. Cloud is a service provider. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the technology. Earlier we used to work on bare metal servers and physical servers, right? Now on
Mhm.
which we have another option as well to run your applications and software. Virtual machines, right?
Virtual machines. Okay.
Yeah. So that is a next technology what they have developed, right? Virtualization. Okay. So why we have to go for virtualization? Any do you find any advantages in it, or it is just a reason we are using it? There has to be something, right?
So why? Because if you do that, virtualization means you can run anywhere, right?
I can run. See, my question is so simple. I can run the same application on physical machine, right? Why I have to go for virtual machine? Any few points that you know, 1 or 2 points. If same question is asked in interview, how will you justify that? Generally, in a server, what we will run? Either an application or a software or a program, something like that, right? So to run them, I'm saying you that we have physical servers. Why we have to go for virtual machine? So simple question it is. Okay, let me tell you one more thing.
To keep it
Virtualization in the
separate,
export.
the code separate, the each application separate from each other.
Okay, why can't I do it in another physical machine? Same thing I can do in multiple physical machines, right? If you want to separate your applications, I can deploy those
Like if we
applications on a
want to
separate bare metal servers. Because cost and maintenance is too high. If I need to purchase a physical server and set up, okay, it will take long time and you have to invest more. If your client is not having that particular budget, we cannot do that, right? He's not in a position to afford it. Okay, so according to the client budget, that is the restrictions what we has. According to the budget, I need to plan a solution. So what they developed the next technology to run your applications, because they are facing a lot of challenges. Because if something goes wrong in disaster recovery, in a physical service, it is too complex to recover it. It is too complex. Okay, in a virtual machine, what will happen is virtual machine is running on a physical machine. See, without having a virtual physical machine, you can't run a virtual machine. That is a true fact. But the advantage is on a single machine, I can run multiple machines. Okay, so on each and every machine, it will look like another server. It will look like another server. It has its own hardware allocated. It has its own operating system, and you can run your own application on it. But on a single machine, you are running multiple machines right now. Okay, that is the advantage what we have with that particular technology. Okay, now you got the point or any confusion part in this? So who is creating a virtual machines right now? A software. What is that software called? Does anyone know what is the software that creates a virtual machine? Right, there is a technical term for it. Any idea regarding it?
Maybe hard, but did not remember.
Hypervisor. It is called as hypervisor. So hypervisor is a piece of software that will run on a physical machine to create a virtual machine. So technically how it looks, let me show you a diagram so that you'll get some idea. For example, you have a physical machine. Okay, so physical machine in the sense what you'll have hard disk, okay, you'll have motherboard, CPU, memory, everything, right? So on this physical machine, let me name this one as physical machine. You can call it as physical machine, you can call it as physical server, or you can call it as bare metal server. It's up to you. Based on the usage, the name will get changed. Physical machine for now. On this physical machine, in order to create a virtual machine, you have to install some software. What happened? Screen. Are you able to see the screen?
No, no, something went wrong. It is not
No,
showing.
it's
Oh,
not.
okay. Let me share once again. Are you able to see now?
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now,
working. Yeah.
yeah. So now what I want to do is, in order to create a virtual machine, first of all, we need to install hypervisor. Okay. Let me just tell you that. So we need to install hypervisor. Let me just increase the font. So if someone asks in interview what is hypervisor, hypervisor is a piece of software to create a virtual machines on top of your physical machine. Okay. After this hypervisor got installed, I can create a virtual machines. It could be one or two or three, depends upon the resource what you have. For example, let's say we can create totally 3 virtual machines. Done. Now this is called as virtual machine. This is not called as physical. See, for example, we are talking to each other, right? How we are talking right now, what this meeting called? There is a technical term, right? What is this meeting called? We are able to talk to each other and we are able to see each other if I open the camera. But what is this meeting
Virtual
called?
meeting. Virtual
Virtual
meeting.
meeting, right? So virtual meeting in the sense what? By using some software like GoToMeeting, Teams meeting, what other we have Gmail meetings and all. Okay, Google meeting, and all this called as softwares right now. So imagine that is an hypervisor. Okay, so by using that hypervisor, we are able to create a virtual machine. That is a reason, that is a reason why it is called as virtual. Virtual in the sense what? Physically that doesn't exist, which is created by a software is called as virtual. Okay, something that is created through a software is called as virtual. So it is a virtual machine because this machine is created by a software called hypervisor. Okay, let us say this is VM1. Let me just increase the font. I'm just trying to explain why we have to go to containerization technology. That's all. To keep it so simple for this course. Okay. Now on this, what you will do? You will run your application or a software, right? So finally, we will run our applications or a software, whatever it is. See, if you want to develop an application or if you want to develop a software, what we need to do? Any answers? So Sumit and Shankar are working on programming, right? So in order to develop an application or a software, what we have to do? You guys
Install a
can answer.
framework. Install the framework for the software, right? Like for
No,
.NET, it's
just
a
we need
.NET
to write a
framework. For
program.
Java,
Simple. We need to write a program, right?
correct.
So simple it is, so that everybody can understand, right? So we need to write a program. whether you need to develop a software or whether you need to develop an application. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys are from development, right? Is my sentence right?
Yes.
Yes, right? Okay. So either you develop an application or a software. It could be a mobile software or anything else, right? Like Android, iOS, whatever it is. Okay. So you will be running this particular applications. Now, this is the final goal, right? See, ultimately, why we are doing all these things to run an application or a software like Facebook, Flipkart, Amazon, Netflix, Disney Hotstar, AHA. All these are like applications. See, those are clients. They want to run their product. If they want to run their product, they need to have a server. It could be a virtual machine server or a physical machine server, whatever it is. The ultimate goal is this one. But here, to run your application or a software, we have plenty of options. One is physical machine. On a physical machine, directly you can run your applications. For example, you have a physical machine. Let me name it so that you will understand one by one. Let's say physical machine. Okay. On this physical machine, you will install some operating system. You will install some operating system here. Let's say, so this is some operating system. It could be Linux, Unix, Windows, Mac, whatever it is. It all depends upon your requirement. So let us say operating system. So operating system it is. Let me just So on top of this, you will run your applications or a software, right? So that's a final goal for us. You'll run some application or you will run some software. Application. Or it's a software. This is the goal. So earlier we used to have this technology. After the improvements have done, they have developed this particular technology called hypervisor. And again, in hypervisor, we have two types. In hypervisor, we have two types. Does anyone know? In hypervisor, we have two types of hypervisors. What are those? Sujal, you are the new guy for today or you have joined the earlier demo? I think you're on mute. Sujal? I think you're talking on mute. That's fine. Okay. Now, does anyone know how many types of hypervisors we have? There are two types, right? What are those? One is called as hardware hypervisor. Hardware hypervisor. We can also call it as type 1. Type 1. We can also call it as type 1 hypervisor. Okay, next one is software hypervisor. Software hypervisor, or we can also call it as type 2. Okay. Done. Later we'll discuss in the course what is type 1 and type 2 hypervisor. Okay. For now, there are two types of hypervisors. The best example for hardware hypervisor is VMware ESXi. VMware ESXi. And then we have KVM, or from Windows we have Hyper-V. Hyper-V. Okay, all this comes under or Zen hypervisor. Zen. Okay, all these are examples for type 1 hypervisor. So what are the examples for type 2 hypervisor? VMware, not VMware workstation, and then we have Oracle VirtualBox. All these comes under type 2 hypervisor. I'll tell you a simple example. In a type 1 hypervisor, without having operating system, directly we can install the hypervisor on the physical machine. That is called as type 1 hypervisor. Whereas type 2 hypervisor, which is called as software hypervisor, without having operating system, we cannot install the hypervisor. Okay, that is a basic difference between type 1 and type 2, to keep it simple so that everybody can understand. For example, I have a laptop. Okay, in my laptop, I'm running Windows operating system here. Okay, so without having this operating system, if I was able to install hypervisor, then it is called as type 1 hypervisor. After installing this Windows operating system, if I'm able to run one hypervisor, that is called as type 2 hypervisor. Example, Oracle VirtualBox. I'll show you that. I'll show you that application. This one. So this is type 2 hypervisor. This is virtual machine I created for one of the batch to explain about Ansible. I created a Ubuntu operating system. I've installed Ubuntu operating system in that virtual machine, and I've installed Ansible tool to show them a practical session. So I'm using some particular hypervisor. It is a type 2. If I need to install this type 2 hypervisor without having operating system, we cannot install it because I want to practice. For my personal use, I want to use Windows. For my professional side, I want to use my Ubuntu operating system. So how I can achieve that? By using this hypervisor. Okay, so type 2 hypervisor will be used only for personal use to create a virtual machines. But whereas in data centers, you take AWS, Azure, GCP. In Hyderabad, we have Control S, sorry, and then we have many other data centers as well. Oracle, IBM. Okay, so there are so many data centers. All those data centers, if you want to create a virtual machine in their data center, they will use type 1 hypervisor, not type 2. Okay, so this is a basic picture of how we used to run our applications or a software on the machines. Any doubts in this? So that now you will understand why we have to go for containers. Any doubts?
So type 1, like when it is getting created, so usually we are creating the virtual system with for installation of some softwares, right? So or some deploying
See,
some
you
applications.
take type 1 or type 2. Okay, the ultimate goal of this particular two hypervisors are to create a virtual machine. Okay, when you will go for type 1, see, technically I don't need to run any operating system. My hypervisor itself will be acting like an operating system. So that you will be directly installing on the physical machine. If you install this kind of hypervisor, it will consume less amount of resources on your hardware. Okay, understood what I said right now?
Yeah, probably. Like, yeah, I understood that, but like, if there is any real world example, right? If you can link with it, so it will be easy.
Example in the sense, for example, AWS, you know about AWS
Yes.
or Azure? They have you
AWS.
ever created a virtual machines on any cloud?
Yes.
How those virtual machines are getting created in the data center, right? So they'll have their own data center. In the data center, they'll have a bare metal service. On the bare metal server, your virtual machine is running. So this virtual machine, now you understood it is a hypervisor who is creating a virtual machine. But are you managing the hypervisor? No. Are you managing the physical machine? No. AWS will take care of it. Okay, what is your responsibility? Only to create a virtual machine. You will pass the
Correct.
instructions how to create. Okay, so you'll pass instructions what to create. How to create, AWS will take care of it. So what kind of hypervisor they are using? Type 1 hypervisor. All the data centers you take, they are using a type 1 hypervisor because they don't need any operating system on the physical machine to run the hypervisor. Because if we run the operating system and then run hypervisor, what will happen? Any guess? If your operating system is down, your hypervisor will be inaccessible and the virtual machines will go down, right?
Correct.
Unnecessary. So that's the reason in the real-time world, in all the data centers or the service providers, they use type 1 hypervisor, not type 2. Type 2 is only for our practice purpose. See, they cannot give you a data center access, right? I want to practice something. Let's say you are a programmer. I want to write some program on Ubuntu operating system. So will they give you a bare metal server or a virtual machine for you? No, you can practice in your local system. Though you are using
Correct.
Windows, right now I can install some hypervisor like type 2 and I can run my virtual machine. As simple as that. So type 2
Yeah.
hypervisor is for personal use, for practicing. Type 1 hypervisor is for professional. Okay, means for a real-time use.
Got you.
Any more questions, Shankar and Sujal? No? Okay. Now let us see what is the next technology. So we moved from this one to this. That is the evolution what was happening. Okay, what is the next one after this? Virtual machines. Now we moved into a technology called containerization. Okay, before explaining what is containerization, let me draw a diagram to explain the functionality of it. Let us say you can install container tool on a physical machine or a virtual machine. Okay, so let me write down here so that you guys will understand. Physical, it could be a physical or a virtual machine. Virtual machine. Okay, if it is a physical machine, you can directly install some operating system and you can run your Docker tools or any other containerization tool. If it is a virtual machine, okay, you will install some operating system and you will run some tool, same functionality. Only the underlying infrastructure is getting changed based on whether it is a physical machine or a virtual machine. Okay, now what you will do, you will install some operating system. Without having operating system, you cannot install containerization tools like Docker, Kubernetes, all these particular tools, Containerd, Creo, Podman. You might have heard about many tools, right? Before coming to this particular training program, you might have done some R&D or you might have heard somewhere. There are many tools for us to create a containers, okay, or to run the containers. Now, let us say before installing the containerization tools, first we need to have an operating system installed on the physical machine or a virtual machine. And remember, you can install any operating system. Containerization tools doesn't have any restriction that you have to install only Ubuntu operating system or means Linux or only Windows or Mac or Unix. It can run on any operating system. Okay, it could be a Linux, it could be Windows, or it could be Mac operating systems. Could be anything. Choice is yours. Depends upon the requirement. After this, what you will do, you will install the tool, that is containerization tool. I'll just write a name as containerization tool so that everybody will understand. Under that, you can add any tool, Docker, Kubernetes, anything as you wish. But to understand, I will write here containerization tools tool. After this containerization tool has been installed, now you will create a containers. To make a difference, I will just draw these diagrams. You will deploy the containers. Inside the containers, what you will have? Applications and software, whatever you want to run. Okay, so these are containers right now. Let me name it. I will name on the right hand side to understand containers. Okay, now in this container, you will install some application 1. This is like application 2, and this is like application 3, and this is like application 4. Okay, this is the technology where we are right now. That's the reason why we are learning Docker and Kubernetes on multi-cloud. Means we are going to learn containerization tools on AWS, on-premises, Azure, and GCP. So these are the 4 platforms that we are learning. See why we are training like that. See in future, in the upcoming projects or in upcoming technology or evolution, what is happening? Your client might be running applications on multi-cloud, not on a single cloud. Storage they might be using in one AWS. Application they might be running on Azure. Okay, containers they might be running on GCP. So they can spread across. Earlier, what we used to do, the clients, they used to run their applications and all their particular applications or software, whatever it is, on a single cloud. Now, in the future, what is happening? They're running their applications on multi-cloud. That is the first thing. Second thing is, for example, you're looking for an opportunity in Docker and Kubernetes, means containerization technology. If you learn only AWS, what will happen? Tomorrow, if there is an opening for Azure, again you have to learn about Azure, right? Or let's say there is an opening for GCP or from on-premises. So, what are the profile is matching to your requirement? Okay, according to that, you can choose your goal. Means you can choose your what is the job. So now we are learning all the 4 platforms. You are learning 3 clouds and 1 on-premises. Tomorrow, what are the job opportunity you have? You can apply for it. You don't have any restriction right now. That is also one of the reason why we are teaching for multi-cloud in Docker and Kubernetes. Not only Docker Kubernetes, what are the tools or what are the services that are provided by cloud providers? We are going to teach all the services on the cloud, like AWS. What are the clouds we are covering right now? Just I've written in the documentation as well. On premises, AWS, you know what is AWS, right? Amazon Web Services. And then Microsoft Azure and GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Okay. So I was been working in as a cloud architect in Azure Visualpath right now. Okay, and then here you can see why we have to learn containerization technology. I have written here what you will be learning from this particular course. Okay, for whom this course is intended for. Okay, who has to learn this, and what is your next future after completion of this course? What you are supposed to do? You can plan for any certification, either CKA or CKAD. Okay, I did certifications on CKA and CKS, Certified Kubernetes Administration and Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist. I did both of them. Okay, you can plan for any one of these. If you want to write Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist, you have to do any one of this certification, either CKA or CKAD. You can plan for any one of them. I will provide a support on that as well if you are interested. Okay, so if you read this particular first page, you will understand why we have to learn this particular course, okay, which I have written here. Okay, now let us go to the next one. So the project, see, you're not learning only the tools what I'm trying to train. We will be seeing some live project as well. So Visualpath has its own application called Kubernetes Engineers. That application is having with React, Node and PostgreSQL. Okay, so I hope Sumit and Shankar can understand. Since you are coming from development background, our Kubernetes Engineers application UI, front-end UI is developed by using React. The backend, the actual process will happen through Node.js, and the data will get stored in the PostgreSQL database. Have you understood this one? This is
Yes,
three-tier
yes.
application, what we have. Okay, so this
Yes.
application I'm going to show live on our tools what we are learning in AWS, Azure and GCP, including on-premises as well. So that this live project you can add it in your resume. That is the advantage what you have. Okay, so this is the major advantage why you have to learn this particular technology. And what are the tools I will be covering? I will be teaching you Linux basics, not to the administration level. Whatever is needed for your Docker and Kubernetes containerization technology, that particular Linux operating system I'll be teaching you. And Oracle VirtualBox to create a virtual machines, because you cannot practice on the cloud, right? Sometimes you have to practice on your local system at free of cost. At that time, you have to learn about Oracle VirtualBox and how to create a virtual machines. Then I'll be teaching you Docker Engine, Docker Compose, Docker Hub, Kubernetes on premises. If you want to set up Kubernetes on premises, we have to use a kubeadm tool. I'll be teaching that as well. And then AWS services, Azure services. See, these services are related to Docker and means containerization technology. But without teaching only containerization tools, I'm teaching EC2, IAM, VPC, Elastic Block Storage, Elastic File System, S3 Bucket, all this. Why? Because these are the services which we are integrating to the container services. So what are the container services we have in AWS? ECS, EKS, and ECR. ECR is an Elastic Container Registry. And then Azure Cloud. So what are the tools, what are the services we have in AWS? Azure is also providing containerization technology by using some services. So we need to learn them as well, like Microsoft Entra ID for authentication authorization, virtual machine, virtual network, storage, container instances, app services, Azure Container Registry, Azure Kubernetes Service, monitoring services, Azure pipelines for automation, CI/CD, and then GCP, and then automation services. See, everything cannot be done manually, right? In today's world, when you are working on a DevOps or DevSecOps environment, we have to automate everything. So in order to automate the process, what are the tools we learned right now? We need to learn GitHub Actions for CI/CD. So I'm teaching you Azure Pipelines, one of the CI/CD tool, and I'm teaching GitHub Actions as well, another CI/CD tool, and then Terraform for creating the infrastructure. So what are the services you are creating on AWS, Azure, and GCP? You will be creating with Terraform. That is also one of the automation tool. And then Helm charts. If you want to deploy some applications on my Kubernetes cluster, I'll be using Helm charts, which is called as package manager. And then GitOps, which is called as one of the technology GitOps. For that, I'm using a tool called Argo CD. So Argo CD tool, what we are using right now, comes under GitOps. Git plus operations, it is called as. How we have DevOps, right? Development plus operations. Similar to that, we have GitOps. For that, we are learning a tool called Argo CD. Okay. So this is the entire topics that I'll be covering in this particular training program, including the live project. Okay. So this is the in detail topics what I've written here. Later, if you want, you can, if you don't have this particular syllabus with you, you can contact Maliti or other team members of Visualpath. They will provide you this documentation. Okay. And I will provide you some proper guidance and how to prepare your resume according to this particular training what we have done with. And if you are planning for any certification, please let me know. I'll help you out after completion of the course. Okay. So this is what I want to explain in this demo purpose. When this course will start, okay, what time it will be, you can talk to the Visualpath team and they will provide you this information. Anything related to technical, you can talk to me. Now, any doubts?
No, we are good. I am good.
Since you are coming from development background, right, you can correlate. Okay. Shankar and Sumit. I don't know about Sujal because he's on mute. Yeah. So that's all for today, guys. Thanks for joining for the demo. And when the course starts, we can talk about in detail about each and every topic that I have shown in the prospector right now. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. Thank you.